Welcome back. Tonight's video is comparing and ordering rational numbers.
All right, so this one is all about deciding whether a particular number is greater or less than another one. And one way we can do that is by using a number line. So we want to just show why negative 3/5 may be greater than or less than negative 4/5. So on your number line, start with your endpoints. These are both negative numbers, so on the negative side, but they're a fraction. So they're going to be in between 0 and -1. And then you're going to break it up based on your denominator. We're dealing in fifths. So I'm going to have -1/5, -2/5. Remember, on the negative side, it's counting in the opposite direction.
So -1 would be -5/5.
You want to be fancy. Here, we're looking at -4/5 and -3/5. The one that's farther to the right on your number line is going to be your larger number. So -3/5 is greater than -4/5.
All right, looking at example 2, we have -7 5/8 and -7 1/8. So we're going to use our integers -7 on the right and -8 on the left, and we're going to count by 8s.
I just got to put my marks
It's okay.
on. Get them divided up even.
Halfway would be -7 4/8, if that's what you're working on. All right. Mr. McKenzie is labeling that number line. So -7 working to the left, -7 1/8, -7 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. He's diligently writing -7 6/8, -7 7/8. And for this purpose, we won't be simplifying our fractions because we're going to leave them in eighths to compare. So -7 5/8 and -7 1/8. -7 1/8 is closer to 0 on the number line, so it is greater than. So you need to point towards the -7 5/8.
All right, with decimals,
Ooh,
it's
they're positive.
often good to make sure that you write them both with the same number of decimal places, so it's easier to compare. So we have 1 35 hundredths and 1 60 hundredths. So we're in between 1 and 2. We're dealing with positive, so it stays in our normal direction. Here, we're going to count by tenths.
So he's going to start labeling 1 1/10, 1 2/10, 1 3/10, 1 4/10, 1 5/10, 1 6/10.
I like how slowly you count as I'm writing.
1 7/10. Oops.
But you'll notice that even though she's saying 1 7/10, I'm adding the extra 0 at the end just because one of my numbers has 2 decimal places, so I want to use the same number of decimal places.
All right, place them.
Here's my 1.6 or 1.60. My 1.35, 35 is in between 30 and 40, so it's going to fall right about there. And again, which number is larger, which number is farther to the right? The one that's closer to 2 in this case would be my 1.60, so that's my larger number.
If both numbers are fractions, write them with a common denominator before you decide which is larger or smaller, and use your inequality signs.
So you'll notice with your first part, we made you show us on a number line. Here we're going to make you show us in the number form. Just because you happen to know or you think you know which number is larger, you're going to have to prove it and show us which one truly is based on having a common denominator.
1 3/4 is also 1 6/8. So now we have them both in eighths and we can compare. We have 1 6/8 is larger than 1 5/8. I got the positive one.
I know, that was nice.
Yes.
Then we have -17 24ths. So I'm going to put my negative with my numerator. Same thing over here. Find a common denominator of 24s. So -17 24ths and -22 24ths. This time, because we're dealing with negatives, we want the one that is closer to 0, so the least negative or less negative. -17 isn't as negative as -22. It's closer back to 0, so that one is going to be my larger number.
That's a little confusing. Better make sure you got it. When comparing numbers in different forms, change them all to decimals. That's easiest to help put them in order. Remember, to get a percent to a decimal, for 6th grade we have 52%. We're going to slide that decimal or divide by 100, 2 to the left, which gives us 52 hundredths. We did that in the percent unit. 2/5.
So there's
In
2 ways of doing this one.
6th grade, we learned that that's 2 divided by 5 if you're using long division, or we can make equivalent fractions, which is the way to go here since 5 goes into 10. So we're going to do 4/10 or 40/100, however you decide to go. So that's 0.40.
And you would get the same thing if you did your division like we did with terminating and repeating. 5 goes into 24 times, so we get 0.4. And then it says list them in order from least to greatest. So they're all positive, so we can go based on which number is smaller. 0.40 is smaller, so that's my
8th grade comes first.
And then we have 6th grade with 52%. And then we have 7th grade with 0.57 or 57 hundredths. All right.
That's it.
That's
See
it.
you later.